Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So we'll get started with this next session as well. So I'll request Muslim Saab to start with the recitation of the Holy Quran, and then inshallah we can begin.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون. Translation. This is from Surah Al-Mu'min. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Surely, success does come to the believers, who are humble in their prayers, and who shun all that which is vain, and who are active in paying the zakat. Okay, I think so. We'll just get started with our presentation. So first, I'd like to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone joining us today. And before we do anything, I just wanted to do a quick poll just to make sure that everyone is awake, that everyone is kind of, it's getting kind of late. So just make sure everyone is engaged. So I'm going to ask a question. So you can, if you're on Zoom, this is a good time to be on Zoom so you can answer this. So go ahead. The question is pretty simple. It just, are you a student? It's a grade school through postdoc. So you can just go ahead and join, and then we can, inshallah, start afterwards just to get an idea of how many students there are, who's a student, who's not a student. And just as a side note for that, we'll be offering tips for students, but as well as people who aren't students, they can really try to benefit from the tips that we give as well. And we'll try to give some productivity tips, some tips for staying on time with your tasks and not procrastinating. And I just wanted to say before we start, it's all about your mindset in these current times. With the COVID-19, pandemic and all these issues, it's a lot of people are thinking negative. They're really not looking at the positives in life and things like that. But I think if we really have the mindset to grow from this, that we can use this as a time to grow. I remember Murabbi Saab in his presentation yesterday, he said that this is as if we're getting a chance to reset our habits. So this is a good time. We don't have if you're a student, you don't have the schedule of school to like kind of hold you down. So you have a lot of time, free time, and a lot of flexibility with your schedules. So you can really make use of that. So I just just keep that in mind as we go through this presentation. We'll give you kind of tips on how to improve yourself during this this crisis. So after this, I'll just just a recap on the poll. It says about 62% of the people who answered are actually students, and then there's 38% are saying no. So that looks like we do have a good amount of students in here, alhamdulillah. So now for the first half of the presentation, I'll hand it off to Naib Mutmim Umoor-e-Tulba Sinan Bhai, Sinan Yunus. So he'll share his screen and start the presentation, and I'll inshallah join you guys afterwards. So go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So yeah, we're just gonna get the presentation underway. So let me share my screen. All right, should be good to go. All right, so the main question is, where do we stand today? And COVID-19 is an obstacle we've never seen before, but at the same time, it isn't an entirely new thing. And what do we mean by that, right? So the main thing we decided was that there's always obstacles on the path of accomplishing personal or collective goals, right? So regardless of this disease, there's always been obstacles, whether you see them, whether you don't see them. But our job today is to help you define your goals. And as students, we may have differing academic goals, but as Ahmadi Muslims, we have a lot of spiritual goals in common. And therefore, it's our goal to address both goals effectively for you guys. I'm going to do that to the best of our ability. I'm going to start, and then inshallah, somebody's going to take over. So I'm going to get started with the academic side. And then just first and foremost, just a quick overview of classes. So right now, maybe you want to get into college, you're already in college, you're still high school or maybe middle school, even younger. But either way, we need to make sure that the classes that we're taking right now, the deep understanding of them is very important, as well as a stellar GPA, right? And this should not change due to COVID-19, even if your classes are pass fail, which I'll get to later. For example, my classes are pass fail, but we'll get to that. So the first and foremost thing is that there's a new style of teaching, and this demands a new style of learning. So it demands us to be disciplined, and it demands us to really take attention to what we're learning, what we're being told by our professors, what we're being told in announcements, etc. We have to take good notes. I know it's hard. I just had a lecture a couple hours ago, and I was watching it on 2 times speed. I didn't want to take notes, but I knew if I didn't, I would just watch and probably fall asleep. So I forced myself to take some good notes so I can really engage with that material. Uh, Furthermore, you want to turn on your notifications for all your apps. And these are just like small little tips that you can apply. This isn't really Jamati or anything. This is just straightforward tips that we're trying to help you out with. And again, you want to keep in touch with any human interaction you can, because I found that if you keep it too remote, too digital, you lose contact. So if you had any peers in your class that you were friends with, any TAs that are still in contact with you, even professors, try to keep in contact with them so you can keep that personal learning, which is really helpful. And you also want to eliminate distractions. So when you're studying, when you're taking a test, don't have your phone in that room. Don't have your iPad on the side. Don't have music playing. Like that's not going to help you out. And about pass fail. So I'm in college right now, and I know some high schools have done it as well, but it's primarily in a lot of colleges because kids go home and they have different access to internet. And what some schools have done is that they have switched to pass fail grading, which means that there's no A plus, A minus, etc. It's either you pass the class or you fail the class. So for a lot of kids, and this is, I feel like it doesn't really, it's not an indicator if you're like a lazy student or not. If I get told that all I need is a D minus to move on to the next class in my prerequisite track, I'm likely to start trying a lot less. For example, if I'm in an organic chemistry and I want to be a doctor, and now I get told you don't need an A, you just need a D minus, I'm going to be chilling. But we shouldn't do that, because a lazy mindset in this time will cause us to lose our focus, and our goal remains excellence, regardless of your trade school, college, grad school, whatever you want to do. Our goal in life should always be excellence. Even Jamia, like all these things demand a lot of rigor and excellence. All right, so moving on real quick. So the standardized testing in ACT, SAT, and AP exams. I'm just gonna cover this quickly, because the main reason I'm gonna cover this one quickly is because if you want information for any of this stuff, it's easily available online. If you want information for the AP test, just look up AP test COVID-19, SAT COVID-19, ACT COVID-19, et cetera, et cetera. But the main things we're just gonna go over today is kind of give you guys hope and make sure you guys aren't just like lost. That as of right now for SAT, ACT, if you're applying to college next year, you're like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Exams are still on for the fall, so definitely take this time to prep, be calm. Everything's very fluid right now, and because of that, the next point, colleges are going to understand that this is an unprecedented situation, and because of that, they're less likely to demand you to have as high scores. They're going to be much more lenient with that, which also gives you a chance to focus on non-standardized things. For example, if you have an extracurricular right now, a very personal thing to you, this is your time to really hone in on that. For example, there's a student, non-anime, I just saw this on the news, some guy from, I think, Washington State, and it's a programmer guy. He's interested in code, and he built some type of website. He got into web development, built some website for sharing data about Corona, and that website blew up. And it's a huge site now, getting hundreds of millions of clicks all the time. And that's an extracurricular that's going to matter a lot more than the SAT if your goal is college. Moving on to the AP exams. So with these, they're open note. And again, I took all my AP exams before this year, so I'm graduating. I'm a freshman in college now. So I've never had an online AP exam. I didn't know it was possible, but I've heard that they're all essay exams right now. And even I don't know what that means, but I think the reason that's okay is because, like I said earlier, you look it up online. College Board has a very detailed FAQ. You go step by step by step. You guys need any help with actual exams, you can feel free to contact me or Hassan Bhai. We have our contact information in the upcoming slides in terms of studying and tips like that. One thing that I would advise that I've looked into when I was researching this and talking to my friends in high school is that the AP exams aren't going to have all the material, obviously, because they're understanding that, the last fourth of the course, a lot of schools won't be able to cover. And also, for example, your English exams, your AP World History exams, a lot of your social sciences, and even your math classes, really, where you can prepare or outline for essays, you should definitely do that. Because yeah, you might not be able to study like, what I do with the online open note exam, I can just cheat. You definitely shouldn't do that. One, because it's unethical, and two, because you should always have the right mindset of being disciplined and wanting to work hard and earn your grade. but it doesn't hurt to make an outline beforehand just so you're, in the mindset. Moving on to internships, activities, volunteering. So this is my last slide in terms of the high school angle and even college angle. So your internship, your research position got canceled. So, you feel kind of defeated right now. I have a lot of friends, schools like Stanford, schools, I go to University of Maryland, a lot of schools around the country where my friends had big internships, big positions, at big companies, at small companies, at startups and nonprofits, et cetera. They're very excited about them, not just for their resume, just because, there was their first opportunity, even for a lot of kids. And boom, they got the email that, sorry, your internship's canceled. The first thing you can do is check if you can work remotely. So I know in the STEM fields, for example, for a lot of times, especially in tech, there is an option to work remotely, even when there's no pandemics going on, just because of the nature of the work. If there isn't an option to work, make sure you stay in contact with the people who got you the job, your recruiters, your boss, your anybody, just so when the next time you have to apply, it'll always help you. And it's good to, you can always learn things, even if you don't have an official title on your resume. It's good to, what are you guys doing? How are you guys adjusting to this? Just keep learning, always keep learning. We're always students, right? And if you can't do this, I actually looked this up myself when I was researching for this, that LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, a lot of companies are, and Cloudflare is one example in the tech sector. Again, just because I'm a CS student, so I know more about tech, so that's the examples I'm sharing, but I'm sure it's in all fields, that some companies are actually opening up internship programs when a lot of companies are closing theirs, just because they see there's a lot of talent out there. And then even if you can't do that, don't worry yet, because you can always find a professional opportunity later. But right now you can always focus on your personal development. So I know me personally, I didn't even apply for an internship this summer just because I know the nature of my major, I wasn't prepared yet. So this summer, my goal was to, take some classes online, online free courses you can take. I think edX is one you can take. MIT, Harvard, Chicago, all the big schools have some of the great courses for free available. You can take that. Again, because I'm CS, you can work on personal projects. I know if you're any different fields, you can also do that. If you're into the social sciences, you can pick up writing, you can try to get published in this time. A lot of different things, even if you're into art, you can put out your art, work on your art, and really just build your portfolio. This is that time for personal development that if you others see it as hopelessness, but you can see it as an opportunity. And inshallah, this will, this too shall pass. And once it passes, inshallah, you'll be far ahead of the competition. And that's where I end for now. And then inshallah, Hassan Bhai will take over.
Okay, Jazakumullah for that. So I'll just begin to also share my screen as well. Share, okay. And so once again, now we want to really try to engage the audience. So we'll ask another poll. We can see it up here. Let's see, it's question 3. So what is the biggest hurdle for you when it comes to studying and or working from home? Is it procrastination? Is it distractions? Is it a lack of motivation or stress? So go ahead, I'll go ahead and launch the poll. It says quiz, I know. We were just talking about exams, so I said maybe just name it a quiz. Maybe more people would answer. Let's go ahead and answer that. And so I'll give you about 30 seconds. And I just want to highlight a few other things that Sinan Bhai was saying, is that the key thing for sure is that there's so many different exams. We can't really give you a specific game plan for every single exam. But if you do want us to talk to you or kind of work with you to maybe make a plan or something for your exams, then we can inshallah really help you. So, and the other thing is that you really have to make sure that you're checking your different exam websites every single day, because as everyone says, it's an evolving situation. So it's things are changing very quickly. And so if there's any other change or change in the testing or change in the rules, you'll be notified of that for that. So, continue to answer the poll now. See, has it been? No questions. Yeah, so I think, there might be a small issue with the poll. I don't know. But we have some chats. So some people are saying all of the above. And all of these 4 things that they can indeed be problematic. And so what we'll try to do in the forward slides is that really try to explain how we can really get past some of these things. So just if we move on, so I'll start presenting.
In the event that the poll goes down, just try closing and opening it up. Sometimes it stalls a little bit. So just try closing and opening again if you want to do it again.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So relaunch the poll. Oh, so we'll relaunch that and we'll give you some time to answer that while we go forward. I think it might have been a small hit, but that's fine. Okay, looks like we're getting some answers in. So we'll check those right after. Oops. So just going forward, one of the biggest kind of methods that we can use to really gain focus and kind of get past this procrastination or being overwhelmed is the Pomodoro technique. Now, it's a very special technique. It's very useful. So basically, I'll go through the technique and I'll tell you why it's useful after that. So basically, it's you pick one technique. You pick one task. Maybe that's studying for an exam. Maybe that's writing a paper or whatever it is. And then you set a timer. You set a timer on your phones. So there's different apps as well you can use for 25 minutes. And then during those 25 minutes, all you do is you work on that task. You don't work on anything else. You put your phone away. You put all your other types of things away so that you don't have to so that you don't get distracted. And then after those 25 minutes, you take a very short 5-minute break. And then once you've done all 4 of those, you can go ahead and take a 15 to 30-minute break. And so this can be your lunchtime or maybe even salat time. So why this works really well is because the first thing is that it makes your tasks very small. So if you have a 3-page paper, right, 5-page paper, it seems like a very big task. It might take you a few hours. But if you sit down and you say, oh, I'm gonna take 25 minutes, I'm gonna work on this paper, then it doesn't really seem that bad. And so it really helps for if you're feeling overwhelmed. I know some people were saying that they were feeling that way. And another way is that this can help with procrastination. Let's say if I told you to study for 3 hours, then that would be a really tough task. You wouldn't really want to do that. You wouldn't be excited about that. But if I said, okay, how about this? You study for 20 to 25 minutes. That makes it really easier, and it really destroys some of the activation energy. You know, there's some science students probably here. It really makes it easier to really get into the task. And so this can be used for procrastination too, because you can kind of trick your mind in the sense in that a lot of times the hardest part of getting a task done is just getting started. So what you can do is actually get started with that 20 to 25 minutes, and then you don't have to stop after that time. And another thing is that this technique is pretty much like a workout for your mind. Is that after you're doing the 25 minutes of work and then 5-minute rest, just like a workout. And so you can actually use this to improve your focus, and we'll talk about that later on as well. So that's the Pomodoro technique. It's very useful if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're procrastinating. So we'll move on to our next poll. So our next poll is: do deadlines help you? And then the answers, possible answer are yes, they help a lot, somewhat, or no, you really don't like them. And so we have an update from our last poll. It seems a lot of people were facing procrastination, so 53%. So that's Pomodoro technique is great for that. You set a 25-minute timer, and then that's really easy to get into. So you get started, and then you pretty much when you're already started, it's easy to go ahead and finish the task. So I'll end this poll. We'll start the new one. Okay. So we'll go on to our next question. So do deadlines help you when you're getting study or work done? Right. And then this will relate to basically what our next kind of topic is as well. So you can go ahead. I've opened this, so hopefully this one works, the first time. Let's see. Can go ahead and start answering. Let's see. Okay, go with that. Now it should be good now. Yeah, restarted. Okay, yeah. So we'll see. We have some answers coming in. Some people saying yes, somewhat. Say only a few people. Only 7%. One person doesn't really like them. So we have somewhat still. Looks like we'll give you just about maybe 15 to 30 more seconds. And also, I'm also looking at the YouTube chat. So if you want to send a message there, you can also try to read that out as well. But okay, so it does look like that a lot of people do feel like that 55% feel that deadlines do indeed help them. So let's really talk about why deadlines can be so helpful, and that why probably a lot of people have found success by using. Oops, I keep pressing share. So just there's one really important law I want to tell you guys about. It's Parkinson's law. So what does it say? It says that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Now we've seen this in in our lives, and I'm pretty sure every single person has. If you have an exam in 3 months, then you probably won't start studying for it until maybe a month or maybe 2 weeks in advance, and maybe a few days before. So it basically says that the time that we're allotting for that task is going to take all of that time. And so this can be really problematic if you have things really far in the future. If you have something like I said, an exam or maybe a paper you really don't get started with it until until it's very close. And then that often leads to, as you said, procrastination, stress, and other types of things of that nature. So, and the bottom line of Parkinson's law is that the more time that you're giving for a task, the less effort that you're going to put in. And so we'll see as we move on to the next slide, we can see this graph that we can see that as our time increases to do the task, our effort is going to decrease. But as the time increases, then the effort really gets high. So that's where we want to really capitalize on that. And we can really use this Parkinson's law to work for us. So the best way to use that is to schedule out time for your tasks. And so what that could mean is you have to find kind of a sweet spot. You got to find a time for your task that isn't too much and isn't too little, so you don't want to get stressed out. So you'd have to experiment with this to find your best time, but it's a really good way in order to get your things done. And like I said before with the Pomodoro timer, you can put yourself on a timer. You know, if you give yourself 1 hour to do this task, it's going to be, and you're on a timer, you're going to be kind of stressed in that situation as if you had something due, you know, for school or something, that you want to try to get that done in time. And so that kind of that's scheduling, that stress of that really helps you really perform better in that sense. And so another thing is self-imposed deadlines. I know we are working on this presentation, and Najib was telling me that, we have to have this done 48 hours before the day you present. So that's basically, we weren't really actively thinking about this, but we basically used Parkinson's law to our advantage. We made this, and then we got it done before 48 hours, so we could finally polish the things later and things of that nature afterwards. So you can really use this to kind of help you in your studies in different types of things. And it's a very useful tool. And maybe even you could even schedule out different things, like you could tell your teacher or your professor that if you have a paper, like, hey, I have this paper, is it okay if I send it to you maybe 3 days before the deadline? You can kind of read it, give me advice. So that is using Parkinson's law. You've kind of move the due date closer, so you actually get it done. And then in those last 3 days, you can really polish your paper. So we'll go again to our next question. This is kind of different, it doesn't, we'll get into this, I'll explain later about this. On average, how many times a day would you say that you pick up your phone? And I would define this as pretty much picking it up and unlocking your phone. That's pretty much how I would define this. So I'll open up the polling, and then we'll go to question number 4. We'll launch the poll. I'll end it and then restart it just so we can launch. Okay, go ahead and answer that question. Okay, yeah, it's working, alhamdulillah. So we can really take a look and see how much people are using our phones. This is very important to the kind of the next things that I'm going to talk about. And so just to get a gauge of how much you think that you use your phone. So it looks like we have a good amount in the 31 to 50 range. Some people even more than 70. Jazakumullah for being honest. But yeah, this can be just unlocking your phone for any type of reason. Maybe it's checking your social media, or maybe checking Telegram. So we can see a good amount is around 31 to 50, and I'd say that's around where the average is for this. Lost count, is there a last count option? Yeah, that'll probably be the more than 70. But yeah, I'd say that, like, for all of us, it's probably more than we think. If you a lot of iPhones and Androids too now, they have these features where you can actually see how many times you pick up your phone. I think it's a device health or something in Android, and in iPhone it's screen time. So you can actually go and check how many times you've picked up your phone, how much time and what apps you spent, and it really gives you really nice data. And so this will be something to definitely use later on after we're done with this presentation, so we can kind of act on that. So Jazakumullah for that. So yeah, it looks like mostly 31 to 50. So end the poll there. I got another kind of question. Now this one, please be honest with this one. How many times have you picked up your phone during this presentation? Now, be honest. I promise I won't be mad about whatever you guys answer. So go ahead, be honest, so that we can see how everyone's doing. All right, we'll see. Oh, never. Thank you guys. Whoever said never, Jazakumullah. So yeah, we can see that it's definitely it's kind of a mix that it's clear that it's kind of hard to kind of put away your phone. When we're watching these type of presentations, or maybe even when you're watching something on MTA, or watching maybe even Huzur sermons, it's hard to put down our phones. They've been created so that we always want to pick them up. And so we'll inshallah talk about this further. So yeah, it seems like alhamdulillah, a few people have been never. That's really good. And we're saying 5 to 10 around, less than 5, and 5 to 10 is probably around the standard average. We'll give you about another 30 seconds to answer. This will really help us to go forward. And then make sure that when you're done with this, you actually go in and you check your kind of screen time after this presentation. You can check it and see exactly how many times you've done this. Okay, so it looks like we have a good, decent amount. Looks like the majority are actually saying that responded. This is the majority that responded. They're saying never. So alhamdulillah, that's really good for you guys. And also the people, jazakumullah for being honest. So let's end the poll there, and I'll continue to the presentation. So basically what I was touching on was basically how much we use our phone. And the main thing that I wanted to address was our attention. So we actually do live in an attention economy. Now, what does that mean? First off, at the most basic level, economics is how as we as a society deal with scarcity. Now, there was this one theoretical physicist named Michael Goldhaber, and he during his time, it was kind of earlier. It wasn't actually really that recent, but it was maybe the late 90s, I believe. A lot of people were saying that we live in an information economy, but he argued that doesn't really make sense. That information is available everywhere. I mean, the internet was just starting out at that time, but right now, especially, all this information is at our fingertips. It's just a Google search away. So that's not something that's scarce. But what is scarce is our attention, our ability to actually focus and really focus on our task and hone in on that task and do a good job at it. And if you don't believe me, I mean, just take a look at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all TikTok even. You can see that those are all the kind of the best minds kind of our generation, and the best CEOs that are working to find different ways on how they can actually monetize our attention. They want us to keep scrolling. Twitter and Instagram, you can keep on scrolling forever and ever. For YouTube, they give recommendations in the sidebar, so that they want to keep, because more time that you spend on their platform, the more money that may make. So as you can see, they're monetizing that. So it's clear we live in an attention economy. Same thing for news. News always has really kind of provocative titles. It'll be sometimes crazy, and that's how kind of we get into the misinformation, spreading of misinformation and problems. And so basically for that, that really means that our attention is something that we have to value. That it's not something that we can really put towards the side and really not worry about that. We have to try to be kind of cognizant of how we are using our electronics, how we are using our attention. So I want everyone to try this. Right when this is done, I want you to kind of think about and try to get yourself. So this will be kind of tough, but you have to kind of think about try to catch yourself when you instinctively pick up your phone. Sometime maybe you're waiting for your food in the microwave or something or whatever, what have you. You'll pick up your phone instinctively without even thinking. Try to catch yourself doing that. So it's going to be really hard. I was trying to do it today, just practicing, and then I was noticing that I would just pick up my phone and automatically open some apps, and I didn't make the conscious decision to actually do that. So just try to catch yourself doing that, and then try to audit that. Think about is this a good use of my time? Am I just kind of doing this as a force of habit? Am I falling into this attention economy? Am I falling into the traps that Twitter, Instagram have made for me? And just another thing about this is that a lot of times these CEOs of these tech companies, they don't allow their children to use some of their apps or electronics. And I think that's just one of the most ironic things. They know that these things are kind of optimized to be against kind of our just the long run to be negative. I mean, there are benefits to those, but there's definitely issues with that. So how do we kind of deal with this? Well, I think one of the main things, very simple, is that do what you're doing. Now, it's a very simple quote, but what does that mean? So do what you're doing just means that whatever task you're doing at that moment, you give your full undivided attention to that task. Now, it seems very simple, and in essence, it is very simple, but in practice, it's actually very tough. Think about how hard it is to, focus solely on one task. Think about maybe the last time you did that. It's really hard to do that. And so that's one of the best ways that we can kind of do to, oops. Sorry about that. So basically with how that is that we really have to try to focus on one task and really do what we're doing, do what you're doing in that sense. So as I said before, social media, they're fighting for your attention. They want your attention. They're always tugging at, your phone or asking you. I mean, every single app that you download, you're going to see that it says, hey, would you like to allow notifications? So I think that's one of the biggest evidence of this, that they make so much money off of just kind of distracting you and things like that, that they always have to ask you for notifications. So I said one of the big things to do is audit your attention. So try to see exactly, question yourself, at various intervals throughout the day, am I focused on my task? Am I doing something that, I actually intended to do? Or am I doing something that, I've accidentally started doing out of like force of habit? Well, if you go through your day, it'll be a pretty big deal that you see a lot of this, how you're just kind of pick up your phone instinctually and not really focus on actually like what's actually going on. You're just kind of passively consuming. And the other thing is high versus low density fun. Now, what I mean by it's kind of an interesting thing. Low density fun is basically something that is something like going through social media, like going through Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, or Reddit. It's those type of things. I mean, you get some pleasure from it, you enjoy it, but it's not something that you make lasting memories or you actually enjoy it from the bottom of your heart. You don't actually enjoy it that like you've made a memory about it and you always remember it. That's what low density fun is. It's kind of nice, you're playing Candy Crush, you're enjoying some things on Twitter. It's kind of nice for a little bit, but it's not going to really make a big impact. So what I propose is that you should try to work with high density fun. So what is high density fun? These are some types of things that build lasting memories. These are maybe doing a hobby, maybe spending time with your family, maybe watching TV with them or whatever, what have you. So those are some high density fun activity. Maybe playing cards with your friends or whatever. So those are the high density fun activities. Those are activities that you genuinely enjoy, and you actually you don't instinctively just do them. You make a cognizant effort. You try to really hard to actually do those things. And this concept of do what you're doing also applies to your play. Is that when you're enjoying, when you're relaxing, maybe when you're with your family, you're playing a board game or whatever, that you fully invest yourself in that time. You don't think about what homework you have do the next day, what work you have, or things like that. You fully relax, you fully enjoy whatever it is that you are doing. And that's the same thing as we'll transition inshallah into in salat. In salat, you really should be doing what you're doing. You should be doing your salat. I remember yesterday Murabbi Sahab mentioned that like it's better that if you try to in your salat, you feel like as that you're seeing Allah. You're in that courtroom with Allah, and being judged. So that's something that we can really keep in our salat. Just try to do what you're doing. Really focus that you're in your salat. So you might as well not worry about what tasks you have to do. It's not gonna help your salat. It's not gonna help you, in the world. So it's really not efficient to do that. And so moving on. So just those are some of our three main tips. Now just let me know. We'll do a quick poll. We have about 20 minutes remaining. So do another quick poll just to see which one of these three activities you think you guys will try out in the future. So go ahead. So do you guys like the Pomodoro technique, Parkinson's law, or managing your attention better? Let's see what types of techniques are we feeling are really helping us. So yeah, the Pomodoro technique, alhamdulillah, that's a really nice technique. I see some fans of attention as well. Parkinson's law is really important as well. I think that the best thing with this is that we just make sure that it's really hard to use all these techniques at once. So just kind of keep them all in the back of your mind, but pick maybe one, or maybe if you can two, that you can really sink your teeth into and work kind of harder on them. So see kind of even between Pomodoro technique and managing my attention better. That's good. So give a little bit more, 15 seconds or so. Okay, sounds good. Okay, yeah. So it looks like we're pretty even between Pomodoro technique and managing your time. Managing your attention better. So actually no, attention just won. That's good. So yeah, I think that is a very important one. Is that if you can really get your attention really improved, it can really make a big difference. But I think all three of these can and definitely be used. So moving forward, just real quick, we do have a lot of resources as the keep pressing share. As the Umoor-e-Tulba department to help you. These are just some of the few things. I'll just kind of glaze over them. Essay editing, different career webinars. You can contact us at students@mkusa.org. So that's probably a really good way to very simple email with any question, and we can kind of personalize our service to you. So just moving on. We also have a podcast, MK Achieve. It's on MKUSA Vibe. It's a podcast where we interview different working Ahmadis and ask them about their job, how they got there, and just kind of some advice they have for Ahmadi Muslim students. And so just moving forward, just in the last few minutes of this presentation, we really want to look at our spiritual goals, as we're not just trying to advance in the world during this pandemic. We also want to make a big push for our spirituality. And so we talked a lot about some online resources for your studies, but what types of things does Jamaat have? So the first and foremost is you can watch MTA. MTA is such a key thing. There's so many. It's very underrated, I actually say, in my opinion. There's so many nice, genuinely interesting documentaries out there. I remember I watched one. It was released a couple of years ago. It's called The White Birds of Hartlepool, and it talks about Hartlepool. It's a city in believe England, and just how Jamaat got established there, and how actually the third Khalifa and actually fourth Khalifa Rahmullah alayhi, actually visited Hartlepool as well, and just how that Jamaat got started with with English people, with English converts. So that's a really good one. There's a lot of different documentaries, and they're really innovative over at MTA. So I really 100% recommend that you for sure watch some MTA and really try to get as much as you can from it. And so another thing from Al Islam, we have so many books. We'll try to talk about these later as well in the next presentation, during MK Connects. But reading is such a key thing that we have a lot more time for. That you can really pick up a book and enjoy it, and then really learn from it. There's so many nice books that we have, and we can really gain a lot from it. And then the same thing is Al-Hakam. Al-Hakam is a very good, recently started, just maybe I think a year ago or two. It's a newspaper in English, so it has a really nice app, and you can go and download it and really enjoy the different articles they have. They're very pertinent articles on COVID-19, different types of things, and it'd be really good if you actually download that. And just another quick note on the MTA app, I just want to say this is that I really love nice apps and nice looking apps. I think alhamdulillah the MTA team has done a great job with this app. If you take a look at it, it looks sleek, it looks amazing, it looks modern. It's a really great app, and I highly recommend, if you don't have this, please download it. I know that there's a few apps and they didn't look as nice as this, but this one looks amazing. On top of that, it has so many features. You can make different playlists, you can favorite different shows, you can do audio only if you want to listen in the background. So it's just a really amazing app. And also, what's relating to the presentation, you can go on this app and really just see MTA videos. You won't have to go on YouTube, and you won't get that recommendation kind of bar. You won't get distracted by that. So that's actually another reason to try to use this app, because it's solely focused on MTA, so you don't get distracted by other types of shows or whatever programs. And so just as a kind of a final quiz, just what types of maybe if you have to pick one, what online resource do you plan on using to kind of bolster your spirituality and reach your spiritual goals? So we'll go to our polling right here. Okay, go ahead, start that. Do you guys want to use MTA, Al Islam Library, the MK Vibe podcast, or the Al Hakam app? I'm seeing a lot for MTA. It's really good. Yeah, the app is really amazing. I know we were just talking about how apps and stuff, they can really attack your attention, but I think this is a very good app that and it's really it's focused. It's not going to try to keep you going there. You can really find your stuff, and yeah, inshallah we can share those the links to different Telegram groups afterward in the Brotherhood chat for this for MK Connects. So we will get that sent. So seeing MT, alhamdulillah, MT, I think that maybe the app, those screenshots from the app are really getting people excited. It's a really amazing. I'm a sucker for apps like this. So I really like the, when they really put some effort in and make it really nice looking. Because I remember they actually had an older app, but it wasn't as nice looking as this, and they didn't have as many features. But this is so amazing. It's so many features. And yeah, it looks like, yeah, I know a lot of people going for MT, Al Islam Library. Also the MK Vibe podcast is great as well. So we'll go ahead and end that poll, and just to close with just a two more bullet points, is that we can really use this time to improve our spirituality. Is that, as Mutamim Tarbiyat Murabbi Azam Akram Saab said yesterday, that and I said this earlier, that you can use this COVID-19 crisis as a reset to our habits. This is a perfect time to kind of get a restart. Maybe if you're a student, you don't have your regularly scheduled classes, you don't have an 8 a.m. class, right? Like you used to, maybe you can watch it on demand or whatever. So we can really use this time to really schedule days around our prayers. Now, instead of how we used to, schedule the world around our prayers, let's try in this time schedule prayers around the world. So basically, Basically, what I mean is that we should try to put in your calendar the different 5 daily prayers and really go and actually do those prayers and really uphold those tasks. And the other part is that you should try to really start your day with Fajr, Quran, exercise, and maybe even a good breakfast. So if you think about, if you start your day with those four like things, it'd be such an amazing start to your day. I mean, I don't think you could even start your day any better than with Fajr, Quran, exercise, and then having a nice breakfast. And this is a really great time to do it. And I remember just one thing, if you want another productivity tip kind of on the side, Murabi Saab actually mentioned this as well yesterday. He was said that there's some things called keystone habits. Now, keystone habits are habits that they kind of lead you, they make it easy for other habits to happen. They kind of trigger other habits. So one example of that is that you basically is maybe sleeping early and also waking up early. What kind of habits would that trigger that makes you habitual to do Fajr, do Quran? Maybe because you have more time in the morning, you can have a nice breakfast, you can get a quick workout in. So that just makes it so that's a keystone habit. That's from that one habit you can get so many other different things. And so I think that's probably the best way to really implement some of these things, is that you pick the biggest ones that have the most kind of impact, and then you use those. So just in closing with our final quiz, just what type of spiritual goal are you working towards right now? We'll try to pick, the most important one for you. So there's a decent number of choices. There's 5 daily prayers, but that's not where we should stop. We should also try that if we have got our 5 daily prayers in, we should try to do different types of things as well. Let's see the poll. So the poll is live. So yeah, it looks like I'll just reset it real quick. Okay, now it should be working. Let's see. So what spiritual goal are you working on? So your 5 prayers every single day, reading Quran daily, trying to read more Jamaat books, watching MP, or others. So you can feel free to raise your hand and join in. And then you can kind of tell us about what other goals, spiritual goals you have. Let's see. See, I'll try restarting. Let's see if this is working. Is this working? So, okay, that's fine. Yeah, if anyone also you want to raise your hand and you have any questions, this is kind of the time that we'll take any questions as well. So feel free that if that poll works, you feel free to answer, or you can even raise your hand and get your question answered. So I think Najib Bhai and his team can do that.
Ji, Assalamualaikum, Mohtam Saab. So I'll just, you can go ahead and take your questions and comments.
Yeah.
So I'll unmute Qaid Saab Ashkash. Hashim Bhai has questions. I'll unmute you.
Yes, Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. Jazakallah. I may request permission to just talk something about this Talim Excellence Initiative, because I am a part of the National Talim team. First of all, congratulations for the Umoor-e-Tulba for a wonderful presentation. I think it was very useful for most students. So I am just going to hijack your audience for a few seconds. So I just want to use this platform. I know a lot of students that are very interested in their careers and stuff are on there. And I think your poll said about 60% students. So this is specifically going to be something related to academic excellence. It was a Shura proposal for last year, and actually I kind of persist until the new Shura comes in. The idea is to actually identify mostly college students and maybe late high school students. And we're gonna make a cohort of those students. Actually, to be honest, this was gonna be already starting if this whole COVID situation didn't happen. And then we have a set of identified Ahmadi Muslim scientists who are gonna be working as mentors for those interested students. Now, this is both for boys and girls. Of course, right now we have an audience of our boys in here. So any of you're listening, you're interested, this is mostly about, I'm gonna quote Dr. Atif Mia Saab on this, that he said that we want people who wanna be producers of knowledge, not consumers of knowledge. So we're talking about, if you were interested in medicine, maybe you're not gonna wanna go into clinical medicine, maybe you wanna go into academic research. And Dr. Suhail Hussain Saab, I believe, is one of our very shining examples. He can be an excellent mentor for that. Dr. Atif Mia, in fact, himself would be wonderful mentor for somebody who wants to excel in the field of economics and things like that. So this, I just wanted to hijack your presentation just for a few seconds to kind of reach out to you guys. If you're interested, wait out for, we're going to have a promotional video, and we're going to be reaching out to a lot of you guys, and then start working on one-on-one with the mentorship sessions, so we can create those scientists that can attain a Nobel Prize. And this is directly under the guidance of Umoor-e-Tulba bin Aziz, who kind of gave Dr. Atif Miyasab a timeline of 1 year to get your act together. This was exactly kind of like the translation of Hazur's words. So just to give you guys a little bit. Thank you so much for giving time, Jazakallah, and thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair, Sab. Does anybody else have any other questions? Feel free to go ahead and just raise your hands. And in the meantime, I don't see any right now, but in the meantime, one question that I also had for you, Muslim Sab or Sinan Bhai, is for the parents right now out there who have kids. I know I see some of them are just parents there, and they have kids who are in elementary school, middle school, younger age students. How should they be dealing with this COVID-19 isolations in home? I know many of their schools have been closed. So what should they be doing to make this a productive time?
I think, first and foremost is just make sure they can check and see if the school is offering any types of classes online. I know sometimes they use Google Classroom or things like that. So make sure you're in the know about that, and make sure you educate your children about that, because they will be on the internet, and obviously there can be some things that obviously you don't want them to see as children. So you can really make sure you're kind of supervising them in that nature and making sure that you know what they're doing. And I'd say the other thing is there's a lot of online types of learning platforms, and things like Khan Academy. I think those are really good platforms to really learn, and you can continue even your studies. I mean, I think even college students, they use Khan Academy. So it's a perfect resource. They have different types of things that you can use on there. And also it's a great time to really teach some spirituality as well, is that you can try to make it a habit to read Quran after Fajr, maybe read a different book of the Promised Messiah with your children. So if maybe you're not able to, do the different types of learning online, you can still kind of do the spiritual learning, watch MTA together with them. But there is a lot of, different types of resources online, like Khan Academy, I said, and very online, you can find any YouTube video about any topic. So you can really educate yourself regarding those things. So I think if Sinan, you want to add anything as well, you can go ahead.
Yeah, just pretty much touching on that right now, a lot of, if there's any parents who are khuddam, it's likely that their children are in their formative years of development. And one of the main things, exactly like you were saying, Hassan Bhai, is that you have the academic side that might not be there from the schools. I know my little sister's in elementary school. She got a packet from her school, and it's not graded, but it's just practice work. But it's good as parents to make sure you hone in, again, this discipline, this rigor in your kids that can go into any walk of life. And also, I think one thing you can do is, because now you're at home, you have the control, that you can have kind of a blended learning environment that, as Hassan Bhai was saying, with you can have a book of the Promised Messiah right next to your math book, and do some algebra problems, and then hit a spiritual book and kind of combine them very well, and that way you sharpen both sides of your mind at the same time.
And maybe Muslim Sab, you can shed some light as well on what about parents or khuddam who are no longer students, who don't have children? How should they be using this from an educational standpoint? How should they be improving themselves in terms of their secular education as well as their religious education in this time? Because oftentimes people have additional time on their hands. So what should they be doing?
So I'd say that to definitely, take some of the advice that we gave, during this presentation, try to really look at, first off, see what types of classes you have and really try to excel in those. No matter how, maybe there'd be simple things, maybe they're open note exam, you still shouldn't kind of let them go to the wayside. You should really try to, put your best effort in and still try to do well. And maybe Sinan Bhai was saying earlier, maybe some things of yours have been canceled, some like summer internships or volunteering. It's still a great, time to really work on yourself as a person and as well as yourself spiritually. And so there's a lot of time on our hands, so we can really, if nothing else, we can use this as kind of a recharge time. We can really focus on spirituality and go forward on from there. So Sinan, you can say something as well if you may as well.
Oh yeah, just again, same exact thing really. It's a great time again to work on your personal development, as we had in the slides earlier. If you just want to hear some specific names like edX, Coursera, Udemy, I think are all great sources that are a little bit more, I guess, professional than Khan Academy. I'm a big proponent of Khan Academy, but I guess for the professionals, people who are out of education, maybe who are trying to retool themselves, especially with a lot of jobs are being lost in this time, the economy is struggling. but this is a great time to retool yourself, kind of get ahead of the curve. So that's definitely what I recommend. It's all on the slide, so definitely look at that. Also do some research on your own. It does never hurt to, you know, take initiative in this time, because again, you only get ahead.
Jazakallah Motam Saab, and Jazakallah Sinan Bhai for your time. I think we'll wrap up now as we're getting close to the time deadline. So Jazakallah everyone for joining in on the call. Jazakallah to the National Umoor-e-Tulba Department, Jazakallah Mohtamim Saab and Naib Mohtamim Saab for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know you guys are both students and you're adjusting yourselves to this online learning platform. So Jazakallah for taking the time out to put this amazing presentation together for us. I think personally I learned a lot from you guys in many respects. So one thing I'll just go over real quick is the program for tomorrow as we begin to move on. So tomorrow's program will begin again at 7 p.m. and the presentation will be done by the National Tabligh Department. So in that presentation, we'll be talking about spreading the message of Islam while quarantined at home. You know, the fact that we're stuck at home does not mean that our requirement or our duty to do tabligh is lost, right? So we still have this obligation. So now our National Tabligh Department will be covering how the best methods for doing tabligh via social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be. So that's a great session at 7. The second session I would highly recommend to everyone to follow and maybe even get the word out to your family to attend this session as well. This session will be about crisis preparedness and disaster preparedness. We know that we're in it for the long haul now. It's becoming more and more apparent that this COVID-19 pandemic will be an extended pandemic, and our membership needs to prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So the National Mummi team will be going over many different methods, many different must-haves in every house, going over how we should be prepared for this pandemic moving forward, and then anything else that could come up as well. So that's it for tomorrow's presentations. After that, you can see this program again, and if anybody needs the program, please reach out to our National Taaleem team and we can give you that information. And again, one more time, I just want to emphasize that on Sunday, we'll be having the session with respected Amir Sahib. And so it is highly recommended to all membership to please try and attend that session. Amir Sahib will be addressing the members in regards to this pandemic and giving us and sharing his wisdom with us. So Jazakallah to everybody for joining. Jazakallah to the National Umoor-e-Tulba team for giving us their time. And inshallah, we'll see you all tomorrow again at 7 p.m. Assalamu alaikum.